Mexico is the land of my blood. I've not visited there in 15 years due to the amount of violence that has moved into our small village. The local police, as I remember them, were already a small force and to an extent touched by corruption. Now it's like an infection, highly contagious. Cartels aren't foreign. It's not a typical case of colonialism as it was in the United States and other countries around the world that dealt with it, where they were fighting off foreign forces. Cartels are local and use means of violence that can be considered colonial. They take land by force, kill citizens to gain power and spread fear and submission, use militant strategies and weapons. They extort taxes from businesses, impose religion, and often destroy natural resources. These actions affect the entirety of the population. Poverty is prevalent in Mexico and is either their cause of vulnerability in becoming a victim or a perpetrator. I'll explain how cartels can be considered colonialist movements of the modern age. There's an old Mexican saying, hierba mala nunca muere. That, when directly translated, means a bad herb never dies. It's fitting. The violence in Mexico became more prevalent during the 1970s and 80s when cartels began trafficking marijuana over the border to America, just as the Colombians sent cocaine overseas. Despite the cartel bosses working together to an extent, kidnappings and random shootings by cartels, ordering hits or crossfire between the government and the cartels leave innocents terrorized and defenseless. This crept in as a new staple in the country. These killings intensify as cartel bosses are taken down. The reason? Turf, land, territory. As cartel bosses are wrangled up by the government, other smaller ones open eye to opportunity and economic expansion and exploitation. Just as the Europeans saw opportunity in the uncharted lands of what is America, Canada, and others. Cartels in Mexico see profit and self-interest in land because they use it for drug plant cultivation, plots for extravagant cemeteries, to build stash houses, you name it. This fight for land illustrates the relations of power and domination. This dynamic allows cartels to both gain power and take it. The more land you have, the more powerful you become. Foucault describes in Society Must Be Defended in 1976 that war is a silent presence in societies of power and can be proved by looking at historical monarchies and other symbols of political grandeur that no longer exist. According to Foucault, war can be seen as the point of maximum tension, like a rubber band stretched to its limits. The rubber band would be the social and societal exploitation pulling on one end, and that same society pulling on the other. The middle or most stretched part of the band would be war. This is the fight for campesinos and cartels. The war is for land, for the domination of resources, for profit and power. For the campesinos, it's a war for livelihood, sanity, and peace. With all wars comes great bloodshed. It's no shock to open up the news and see pictures and videos of gory images and death. For the people of Mexico, it's much more real. It's more like opening your front door to kiss your daughter goodbye before sending her off to school and having to call the police to report a dead body, having to have your daughter step over a rag to not get blood on her shoes. And it might seem hyperbolized, but it's reality. The decrease in the meaning of life has been a result of violence in Mexico. It's the constant exposure of seeing death around that makes a newly taken life as normal as a light turning red. Only the people begin to believe that death will never stop and learn to live with it or simply ignore it. A way to analyze this reality is to think of the theology of Homo Caesar, as described by Amygdon, taken from Greek mythology, which means sacred man, or a being that can be killed but not sacrificed. The normality that is formed around death is the result of crimes being perpetrated senselessly, even as if on the spot, not non-premeditated, which is often not true. Would these deaths be revered as more obscene and justifiable if they were done on a set agenda, or let's say in the name of something blasphemous such as Satan? The fact of the matter is that these killings are often done in these ways, but executed mercilessly. The symbolism is what is taken into account rather than the flesh, the message, if you will. Symbols such as Jesus Malverde and La Santa Muerte are pedestaled and seen as the patron saints of narco-trafficking, though it can be argued that these symbols are religious and sacred to people of faith. There are parallels of early colonial imposition of religion on colonized subjects with building of churches to that of cartels with campesinos of Mexico today, and the building of shrines to Malverde, La Santa Muerte, and fallen colleagues by family within the organization. The rise of cartels as a lifestyle is causing the Catholic religion, which is historically dominant in Mexico, to decline either by force or loss of faith. My people turn to cartels because they find more security and commonality with them than with their government. Then we come to postmodernity and autoimmunity as described by Virilio and Derrida. Postmodernism in connection to cartel violence is the lifestyle and aesthetic that the cartel embodies. Music, fashion, language, things that would be considered modern in postmodern approach. These factors play into the theory of autoimmunity because people begin to see this lifestyle as something desirable. So listening to music that speaks about killing and trafficking and then seeing it in real life don't correlate to the person because the song is only a song. It's not real, and death is something that happens constantly. This is an example of autoimmunity because the death is no longer seen as needing to be justified. The other layer to this is that the violence is enacted by internal forces. The people that are being internally colonized by their own families, peers, corrupt police officers, etc. It's easy to kill one of your own if there's been a mistake or a shift to your belief and value from humanity to money. Historically speaking, Mexico has always been the subject of violence, colonized once in the past by invaders seeking their land, their resources, who killed their people with weapons more powerful than them to gain power over them. Cartel violence is the new voyage. The Santa Maria sailing and overlooking India and freshly touching down a shore. Con dinero baila el perro. The dog will dance for money. Cartels are the new colonialists, ravaging, taking, exploiting for their profit and their own expansion. Their actions of taking land, taxing, killing, imposing religion, to name a few, is a reality that is local to where they operate. Home is a battlefield between modernity and old age. Thank you.